Hi, Ed Phillips again. Boy, I'll tell you, chasing animated butterflies reminds me of the 60s. You know what they say, if you can remember the 60s, you weren't there.
I think Matthews started before Matthews really started. Roy Isaiah was the founder of the company in 1970. Before then, he saw a need for the studios to be able to outsource rags and flags. And my dad was really good at mechanical things. He was great at hardware. Roy was great at the fabrics and the lighting control. Both had worked sets before. And at the same time, they had met
Carlos D'Amatos. I met Eddie in early 70s through Roy Isaiah. Roy was looking for an accountant, bookkeeper. You know, there were only 3 or 4 of us right here on Vineland.
It was a startup. I was the 3rd employee. We built a company that serves the imaging community, which is motion picture, television, still photographic.
Where did the name Matthews come from? Well, it was 1970. Roy just had his first son. They needed a name for the company. The kid's name was Matthew. Boom, Matthews.
So how did I get messed up in this film business? Well, the simple answer is 1 pair of drumsticks. That doesn't tell you much. Actually, I was playing rock and roll all through high school and into my 20s. My wife, of course, wanted me out of the business.
Hello, I'm Norma Phillips. I am Tyler's mother, Emily's mother, and Ed's wife, or was Ed's wife.
Touring and clubs and groupies was not conducive to a good marriage and raising children.
That's the guy. Here. Now hold it closer to the end. Better control. There you go. Get that watered. Look at the sound. This is the chronic cough at 4.
And this is my sister, Emily Habibi.
Hi. How are you? I mean, he's just, my dad is probably the craziest, funniest, most eccentric person I think I've ever met. He came from a very eccentric family, so it's no wonder.
The main debt collector for Matthews was Ed's father, Big Ed. He was, I don't want to say he was a gangster.
Well, Tyler, this is the first time your mom left you alone with me. So I thought it would be appropriate to make a little film and say, I'm taking good care of your son, we're having fun together. So far we haven't had any problems. You know, Tyler, as you grow up, there will be times when you feel as if the whole world is upside down. But let's go outside like I promised you, and I'll teach you how to use a hatchet.
I think Eddie designed the collapsible C-Stand.
He had a really good gift in assembling products, in designing products.
The original C-Stand goes back 100 years for 100-inch reflectors, and they had welded bases.
I can go back to the day when C-Stands did not collapse. They were 3 welded pods, and they came in studio colors. If you worked at a certain studio, whatever color their studio was, that's what they were. They did not fold up.
This particular model was the first one Matthews ever started mass producing. This model, you can actually fold the base up, where the ones at the studios before the 70s were all welded at the base. I think my dad used a little bit of his knowledge of the music industry and his drumming days and put some of that into his designs, into the grip equipment that we see today. This is the first model made in 1973, where you could fold the base up by loosening this knob, and voila, the C-Stand, ladies and gentlemen. The #1 tool on set over the last 50 years, and probably over the next 52.
And also another thing we did is we definitely created something unique in making grip equipment to become a standard. Most studios made their own equipment because they were shooting on their backlots. So for instance, a 5/8 pin, which became the standard, because Eddie and I, we went to Congress. They do some studies, and then we got a letter with a stamp saying, the 5/8" pin became the standard. And we went, wow.
Hi, Rick Hansen, Matthews Studio Equipment, retired. Started in 1976. I've been in and out of here a few times. Mr. Phillips has personally fired me about 5 times. He was a live wire. He was always on the move. We always had people here. We were here every night.
Eddie was very driven and worked a lot, long hours.
Well, what he instilled in me is, number one, you always suit up and show up, no matter what. And his work ethic was extraordinarily strong. So no matter how hard he partied the night before or whatever he did, he was always at work, always working hard.
He did have something that was special. You know, I mean, he was my boss, and I respected him for my boss, and he was a businessman. But on the other side, he was everybody's friend.
My dad definitely was a family man in 2 senses of the word, both at home, but here at Matthews, this was truly his family, and he really took care of all of his employees. But yeah, I mean, he slept, and breathed Matthews. That was truly in the forefront of his mind at all moments.
Ed and Carlos bought Roy out about year 2 or 3 I was there.
Carlos was the math wizard, but I know Carlos did a lot more than just count.
Carlos was charming as well. I mean, the two of them together.
They were quite a duo. They fed off of one another.
In those days, we would invite the grips and gaffers and DPs to come over and have a beer at the end of the day. And guys would give us ideas, and Eddie would write it down, and we would develop product based on what the gaffers thought that would be helpful for the industry.
We rely heavily on the grips to come in and consult with us, hear from them, what are their needs, what's lacking. So we work in collaboration, and, we've never taken anything from anybody. We really pride ourselves in providing compensation to those who bring us ideas. And that's what we rely on in terms of advancing our technology.
Then I think the company Matthews really became well-known when we developed the Tulip Crane with a couple partners in Holland. That's why we called it the Tulip Crane.
My name is Constant Tresvon. I'm the founder of the Equipment Group of companies. I've met with Ed and Carlos during an SMPTE exhibition in Dallas somewhere around 1977. It even resulted in a Technical Achievement Award that both companies received for the design and the manufacturing of the Tulip Crane in 1982.
Well, I'd like to thank the entire team who worked on the design and the manufacturing of this Tulip Crane, especially our American partners who did a very good job for us on this side of the ocean.
Well, in keeping with tradition, I too would like to thank a few people. It was definitely a collective effort. Undoubtedly, my mother-in-law, believe it or not, that was a promise. My wife, Norma, for all of her patience in sharing me with this industry.
Because it's a technical achievement, they do it one day before the main Oscars televised, as they don't want to bore people to death. And we would get tickets, 2 tickets each, to go to the main Oscars. Rent a limo, play the part, introduce all the actors to our wives. Hey, Paul Newman, you remember my wife, Elena? And then you say, oh, you remember my wife, Norma? And in those days, the guys, oh, yeah, and they would kiss her. And my wife said, I got kissed by Paul Newman. Wow.
Your father's biggest thrill was that Diane Cannon, he got to sit on his lap.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he was pretty happy about that.
And sure enough, years later, when we were doing very well in gross sales, selling tulip cranes, and we had a major accident in Florida.
It was in Florida working on a Universal picture with Burt Reynolds, who was co-producing. Well, The crane operator made a terrible mistake. The crane toppled over and litigation ensued. So the then CEO and president of Universal, Lou Wasserman, decided that he was going to try to mitigate this occurrence. And so he called all the lawyers up to his office.
They found out that all our weldings were certified and well registered, which saved us. But we still were guilty because we didn't have a disclaimer: do not operate this crane under the influence of alcohol or drugs, which is stupid. Of course, you cannot operate anything under the influence of drugs or alcohol.
You know, now as it turned out, I learned a very valuable lesson. You cannot just manufacture something and put it out into the mainstream of commerce. You have to be able to rely on the tests you've done and the integrity of that product which you put in somebody else's hands.
That was a shame because it totally destroyed the name of the crane. So Eddie and we thought, well, I know this guy.
Matthew's creative, aggressive management team has accounted for major strides in the art of location filmmaking, but none more significant than when in 1982 we formed Matthews Studio Electronics Incorporated in association with Bob Netman, known industry-wide for his engineering genius. Through our studio electronics arm, we make available to the industry Mr. Netman's extraordinary innovations, most notable of which is his technological milestone, the Cam Remote.
We invested around $350,000, a lot of money in those days. We need to start selling this thing, or better, we are going to rent. And then we said, what can we do this? And there was a guy, today I'm sharp remembering names because usually I forget names, Frank Osborne from NBC. So the guy says, well, I'm doing the Orange Bowl in Miami. Did you guys ever think about using this as a goalpost camera? I said, no, but that's a great idea. And we are all watching the TV, and sure enough, the guy showed the remote control camera and says, this is from a company in Burbank, Matthews Studio, the remote control, and we all excited. So the following day, this guy says, do you know, hi, I'm Francis Ford Coppola. Did you guys ever think about using this camera for a motion picture application? I said, shit, this is what we started, was for a motion picture. And we said, no, sir, but that's a great idea. And Akira, Spielberg, and a lot of those guys endorsed the remote control camera. And we got our second award from the Academy of Arts and Sciences. And Matthews started taking off. We were approached by a couple investors that said, why don't you guys go public? And we got into the public arena, and we went for an IPO, which happened to be in October some year when the market was crashing. So if it was not for bad luck, we would not have any luck at all.
It was crazy. They hired me back as mergers and acquisitions.
And we got a company named ING, which was a Dutch company. They backed us up to keep on going, and their game was to turn Matthews into a big company, one-stop shop type of an entity.
I first met Ed when, before the merger, and in 1989 they decided to become public. They thought in the beginning that going public will make it become bigger.
Well, the idea was to consolidate, to give the end user the grip, the lighting, editing, we had video, and then we were strategically positioned through the country at all the main production hubs. We also did theatrical, so we had all the stage.
And we raised capital and we started buying companies.
And I traveled the country with either Ed or Carlos, going around and checking out companies' equipment. That was my part, and making bids for the different businesses. We bought 23 different companies in 2 years.
In view of the changing 90s marketplace anticipated by the directors of the Matthews Group, we've positioned ourselves to provide all our equipment on a rental basis. The company's amazing growth is due to its forward-thinking management team, who eventually brought about our merger. These additions provide Matthews with complete saturation of grip, lighting, and camera support services.
And it was a lot like The Wolf of Wall Street. It was a crazy, crazy time when they were in New York in the 80s. I can't really be too specific. They were wild. The two of them are very wild. I know Eddie did streak Broadway.
Eddie was the king of streaking. You know, I didn't have the guts to do it. So, and one guy said, I bet you will not do this in New York City. Sure enough, he goes on, opens the cab door. The cab driver said, I can't believe this thing. So there goes Eddie on Fifth Avenue at 1 a.m. There was not too much traffic. And we see Eddie coming, running back to the cab with a police car chasing him. We were not very nice to Eddie at that time, and we locked the door. So we said, let me in, let me in.
Eddie wasn't bashful about taking his clothes off.
In the 1980s, when I first got to know Ed and Carlos, they were just a really great team that worked together very well. And when you were with them out selling or whatever, you realized how really good they were and how successful the company was totally dominated by them and their ability to control the audience and do what needed to be done to make the sales.
It was like a roller coaster ride, essentially. Every day it was, well, we're doing great, everything's perfect, and the next day it's like, I think we're gonna go out of business. I mean, it was very, very difficult. But eventually Eddie began to see that this was just all smoke and mirrors, and he needed to get back to the business of running his business.
And at the beginning was fun, especially for me, maybe not for Ed, because Eddie was still, you know, trying to build equipment, and I was having fun because I liked to build a big Wall Street company.
I remember one morning I did roll over and I did say, why don't you get back to the basic business, running your business, and quit worrying about the stock price? I mean, it was very stressful.
So we made a deal in 1999, and Eddie bought the manufacturer entity away from Matthews Studio Group, which turned out to be a good idea for Eddie. And we separated. I kept with the public entity, and Eddie kept the Matthews Studio manufacturing side of the business.
Yeah, he basically had to borrow a lot of money, and the campaign, the picture actually depicted how he lost everything except for his boxers, and it's really funny and it's catchy, and everyone's like, why is he in his boxers? And that's the reason why he put all his resources to buy the company back, to make it private again.
Then, you know, things on the group side, on the public side, went bad because ING went out of business. Nothing to do with us, as we were too small for their overall company. So they stopped backing us up, and we had made so many commitments. We bought a company in New York, 4-star, I think.
We kind of had a little bit of everything, but we bought one company too many. That was 4-star in New York.
So we put deposits. We had all this cash going out, and then the rug was pulled underneath us, and we had to divest and sell different divisions. And I got into the production side of the business. But this is not about me, it's about Eddie. Meanwhile, Eddie started doing very well with the manufacturing of products. And Matthews right now is a very successful company run by his children, Tyler and Emily, and I'm very proud of them.
You know, Hollywood's a family town, and this is a family business. 50 years is a long time to survive in any business, and this is not only surviving, but thriving.
Matthews Studio Equipment has really spent its entire 50 years keeping up with those relationships with filmmakers of all levels.
I came out in 1975 and started doing commercials. And Ed sort of took me under his wing and said, "Kid, you're gonna do good in Hollywood. Let me help you." And every time I could turn around, there was Ed helping me out.
All this company is relationships. My dad used to say it, and I don't think really hit home until he was gone. This company is nothing but four walls without the people inside of it.
You know, the company is the people.
The company is really the people. You've heard me say that before. And without you, this company would be nothing. And I would be really, really blue if you guys weren't here.
You need a whole team.
You do need a team. It is about the team, right?
You have a front, you have a front person, but without a team, your support, you can't do anything, so yeah.
I've never worked at a company that's been around for 50 years before. So it's just a testament to what it takes to keep coming in every day, churning out high quality product, good price. It takes a lot. It's impressive.
Day to day, the age of the company, celebrating the 50th, it really comes across in the relationships I see out in assembly, the relationships I see in fabrication. There's people that have been here for a very long time.
When I first got to Matthew, the vibe was great. I noticed that everybody kind of got along with each other, especially when Ed's used to always come and talk to you, treat you like you were family. Ed was the kind of person who used to walk every day, you know, say hi to you or...
One time I just accidentally bumped into him, and the only reaction I had at that moment was to give him a hug, and his reaction was give me a hug back, which was kind of heartwarming.
Oh, Eddie did care. He cared more about his employees than he cared about himself. He was very interested in their future and planning and teaching them to take care of their own future.
He always cared about his Matthews family and always encouraged people to do better, always offer free school. I did take advantage of those classes. I finished the school. Matthews paid for it 100%, and I got smarter.
One of the main core values of Matthews is uplifting its workforce and promoting employees from within. I feel very fortunate for the position that I'm in today, both to just have the capability to do it and the possibility of doing it.
Actually, I was one of the first women to come here and work the actual CNC machines, and that was my biggest fear, you know, working with guys and not having them help me out because I was a girl. But it was totally the opposite here. They actually, you know, they wanted me to learn more and more. So that's the experience here has been wonderful with the guys. Who knows what I'll be doing, you know, in 5 years. I'll probably be running the whole machine shop. Not kidding.
The place has changed a lot since I started. We used to work at the other building, and over there the shop was so small, it was so crowded.
8 buildings on 2 different blocks, facing 2 different directions.
And he came across this building.
Gentlemen, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
This is a beginning
For the next 40 years.
to the new Matthews.
Yes.
Completely gutted the entire building. Put in new plumbing, new electrical, new offices.
He was so proud and worked really hard to make it a lovely place for everyone to come to work. So now I think people feel more united being under one hub.
We have all this nice equipment, all these nice machines. The welding has improved a lot.
I'm so heartened that not only the showroom, but the manufacturing is right here in Burbank, California, and it's not overseas somewhere, and help our industry stay in this country.
It had always a reputation. Their products were made really well. Every movie set, when I was working at Auto Lemons, I had Matthews equipment on there. And it was used day in, day out, and it was built to last. So, very good reputation.
設立以来マシューズのスタンドやグリップを、現場にて大変助かっているということを聞いております。今後も、マシューズの独特な
Peter Dopplinger, who owns a big rental house here in Vienna, was in a Clint Eastwood movie, and when he came back from that movie, working, abroad, back into the local industry, he said, we need knuckleheads, we need open ends, all this stuff, and nobody here knew it. So he started actually to carve the first knucklehead here in Austria out of wood, based on a Matthews knucklehead, which is, really impressive to see how the industry has developed. And at the stage we're at now, with the high-end cine reflectors from the Lightbridge, the CRLS, it just takes a lot of precision to set them. So you need much precise grip parts, actually. And it's just been a huge pleasure starting to work together with Matthews.
More and more people are learning how to become content creators because we all have these awesome supercomputers with great lenses in our pockets.
It's unprecedented. It's never been like this. People in the middle of Iowa can do the same things that people in Los Angeles can do. So the technology that you use to support the projects that you want to make has to follow that trend.
Always innovating. Ideas come to us all the time from the field, solution-based ideas. And if we see the market for it, we help make it. And that's just how a good company grows.
Yeah. I would say then the operations, the way we run operations today, has to do with the fact that over the years, Matthews has had an open door policy for its customers. If you have an idea, bring it in, we'll make it happen for you.
Yeah, we get a lot of those. We get a lot of people walking in off the street with really great ideas, and some have turned into products. One of the more fun projects I got to work on was with Jim Sal Duty with the Duty Dolly.
I was in the market for buying a slider, so I couldn't find one that I liked, so someone told me about the Matthews slider, so I popped my head in here just to check out their slider.
And ours is the best.
Jim has been working in this industry for probably 35 years.
I've been gripping for over 32 years, and I've created this thing called the Duty Dolly. And I told him that I had an idea.
So he brought in this dolly he had, which was super cool. It was really simplistic.
I've had them for close to 20 years, but the first one was plywood. It morphed from there until it got to Matthews. They made it perfect. It became a shiny, brand new penny and beautiful.
The most fun product for me is the Menace Arm, because it was such a cool product and it was hard to sell, because if people didn't see it and hadn't seen it in action, they were like, what am I gonna do with that?
Well, Max had a little slow trajectory. When I first made it, I made it a little bit out of selfish necessity and laziness.
It's just so useful because you can put enormous weight on it. You can get a big light out of the picture because it booms out. You can go vertical with it. There's just so many things you can do with it.
The Max Menace is usually for putting lights and cantilevering them way out so you can, rotate around and not see any stand base. Well, I thought, what if we put a gimbal on that thing? So we put the Movi FreeFly, suspended it over 3 stories of these stairs, and literally did the shot where the person walked up it, and then we were able to tilt up with them and hinge and deliver the emotional impact of the scene.
I was honored with Matthews at the Academy to be awarded a Technical Achievement Award for the development of Max Menace. I think it's been sold in 80 different countries around the world, and I'm proud of the fact that I think it's used every day somewhere around the world.
I'm proud to say that Matthews prevails as the company of choice for what Eddie used to call gripology.
After 50 years, Matthews is ready for the next 50 years.
Yeah, after 50 years, Matthews is still innovating.
Matthews is still here and we're not going anywhere.
Matthews has left a lasting impression in the media industry.
I think Matthews will still be building all the stuff that's needed for the movie industry.
Matthews is still a very desirable company to work with.
The company itself will not be willing to settle for mediocrity.
I'm pretty sure it'll still be going strong 50 more years.
We expected to see 50 plus. So that's what we want to see, more years.
Matthews has continually and passionately pushed this industry forward.
After a half a century, Matthews continues to create, continues to innovate, and make our lives so much easier.
Hi, I'm Dean Cundy, ASC. I wanted to congratulate Matthews for 50 years of innovation and creating some of the most useful stuff that we use in film production.
50周年おめでとうございます。
50周年おめでとう、タイラー。またね。
Congratulations, Matthews, on 50 years. Cheers.
Cheers.
Matthews is still a fun-loving, out-of-the-box, creative, and unique manufacturing company.
Matthews is still as innovative as they were when they started all those decades ago.
We're still very proud of this company and everything it represented.
Matthews is still part of my family and remains in my heart.
Matthews is still guided by the core values that it was founded on.
Would not be here without the hard work of Ed Phillips and his team.
Has a new president, and he's filled in Ed's shoes. He's come up with a lot of new ideas himself, and he's keeping the innovation for the company going.
I mean, we know there's only so much time and you have to decide where to spend it. And it's just amazing to know that some of these people devoted this much time of their life to Matthews. I'm just so grateful.
Mr. Ed Phillips.
Yeah, you better like me down there. I love you guys.
Hello, are you there? Can you hear me now?